Plants vs. Zombies wasn't just a game, it was my childhood. I spent hours glued to my iPod Touch, destroying every zombie in sight. But today, I'm bringing those memories to life. I'm turning some of my favorite plants realistic. So I think it's only right that I start with a pea and another pea for the shooter. Now, I used warp to mold the second pea into that cannon shape. Now, I need to just blend it into the big pea. All I'm doing is using the eraser tool at a lower opacity to make it look harmonized. With his head done, it's time to give him a stem. I puppet warped it into position, then warped the top part to widen it up a bit. Moving on to his leaves, I selected each one individually and clipped a leaf texture onto them. But before that, I warped the texture into the general shape of the leaf. Sorry about all these sped up parts, there's going to be a lot more of them. And let's not forget the iconic head leaf. Okay, now I'm adding shadows to everything. Once those are in, I'm tossing on some highlights to the tops of all the leaves. Now we can add that gigantic hole where he shoots out his mini peas. With the black void in place, I added a soft green edge around it where the inside of it should be. At this point, I'm tossing in a few more shadows across his body. And obviously, he's looking a little eyeless at the moment, so let's fix that. I added his eyes, gave it a blur, and added a shadow. And I repeated it for the second eye.
The zombies are coming.
Now onto the sunflower. For the skin, I used this sunflower's face and clipped it onto the original. Now this part was painful. I had to select each individual petal and clip a petal texture to each one. It took me 15 minutes, so let's speed this up, and let's cue the classical music. Oh my god, finally. My hand was actually starting to hurt. Luckily, the stem and leaves are the same as the pea shooters, so I just copied them over. Now I'm going around the entire sunflower adding shadows. This is another long one.
Six and a half hours later.
For the eyes, I did the same as before. But this time, I added an inner glow so they didn't look so flat. For the mouth, I selected and masked this kind lady's smile and warped it into the same shape as the original smile. Colored it brown and added a shadow. And boom! Now for the nutty guy. I started by warping this walnut into the same shape as the character. Then I selected around the crease on the right side and darkened it slightly for a shadow. Next, the eyes. I started by selecting this long line and copied it onto a new layer. Believe it or not, I'm actually doing this for a very good reason. And then I created his two white eyes. I puppet warped the long line around the eyes so it looked like it was part of the nut. And now let's clean up the edges so it blends in nicely. Then I added a dark color layer inside the eye and feathered it so it looked like a shadow, and copied it onto the second eye. So he has eyes, but he doesn't have the eye nipples. That's better. For the eyebrows, I just snipped a part of the body that looked eyebrow-ish and placed it above the eyes. Same thing for the smile, but the line was too faint. So I selected it and cranked the exposure. Now for the corn catapult guy. Obviously I'm starting with a slab of corn, so let's place it into position. I also used the green bit from the same image for the leaf, and puppet warped it to make it curve. I copied it around the corn and warped them slightly differently so they didn't all look the same. Now this one leaf kept doing this, and after it happened again, I got a bit annoyed, as you can probably tell. I reused the stem from the others for the catapult arm, copied a bunch together, and blended the joints. So this is the lucky piece of corn that's going to be used for the basket. I removed the sharp top part so it matched the originals, and then I adjusted the color in hue and saturation to give it that same brown color, and added a quick shadow. Then I started laying down all the corn pieces. Let's cue that relaxing music again. Once those were done, let's put the big piece of corn in the basket, and I'm adding a shadow. For the eyes, it was the same process as before. And the eyebrows, I snipped off the end of one of his leaves and puppet warped it into position. Finally, I went around and added shadows. This was such a fun video to make. If you enjoyed it, I'd really appreciate it if you subscribed. And let me know if I should do a part 2 with more plants or the zombies. Anyways, don't forget to close the fridge and see you next time.